Hello, and welcome to the Green Island Podcast. I'm Bernard Sheehan, joined by my partner here, James Sheehan, on this adventure, and we are the authors of Hard Border. It's a book in what we are hoping to build into the Green Island series of novels here, and please feel free to reach out and try it. We're on Amazon and also Barnes & Noble, and we have a Twitter account or an X account as well for our Green Island pods, and love to hear from you there as well. So again, thanks for joining out there, and James, thanks for taking the time to meet up today.
Yeah, thanks, Bern. Yeah, great. And again, for the fans out there, Hard Border, yeah, definitely take a look. We're definitely going to be punching it out. And it might be the Jack Reacher where maybe we come to fame on book number 5. But hey, we're going to keep on going for the next 10 to 20 years. And we got 15 books in the pipeline, all the same story, all the same universe, but broken up in the timeline. So we're going to punch out the second book's almost should we say outlined, and we'll start punching that out, and we'll just keep on going until we get, hey, maybe we'll be on Netflix in 10 years, who knows.
Well, we've got stories
right now
to tell.
We'll just keep with it.
Yeah, we have
stories to tell.
Yeah, and a lot.
You think they have stories on P. Diddy? We have better stories.
There you go. Yeah, you think they've got stories on the royal family? We've got stories. All of this stuff.
Yeah.
So we've got.
This is P. Diddy's child's play compared to these people. I mean, that's a normal Tuesday for what he's going to jail for.
Yep, and. No relation at all, or, and a completely different subject, if you will, as they used to say on Yes Minister. It looks like there's a new leader of Fine Gael there. So, we're not going to have Leo to, beat up anymore. Now we've got, Simon in the works here, and we'll see how that looks. I mean, I know you've got a little bit more history with him than I do, James. So you want to jump in and kind of give us a little bit of background?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was surprised they went with him because he's pretty much one of the weakest politicians in the history of Ireland. But I guess as, some would say they're so destined to get killed that they need just a face to kind of take the heat. But I mean, he's 36, 37 years old. He looks like he's 55, 60. With the gray hair. There's something significantly wrong with him, not to mention just mentally and physically, he just looks like he's decrepit, but for 30, but he's been horrible. I mean, he's the guy who brought in the abortion referendum. He was Minister of Health. Again, no healthcare background whatsoever.
Never.
He was a journalist. And they put him as Minister of Health, and this is what happens with these parliamentary governments. They put people that have absolutely no experience running these individual departments that, he runs, 100 and something hospitals as the Minister of Health and has absolutely no healthcare experience whatsoever. So he was the guy that oversaw the initiation of the Children's Hospital, which, as you know, is a $2 billion boondoggle, about 4 times over the price of its original budget. And he started that. He didn't start it. He just moved it to the final site it was on now. And he did it when he was probably 31, 32. And then his big achievement, of course, was the abortion referendum, which he was spearheading and which got in at an overwhelming, support. But, he's just, in my opinion, he's just a piece of shit like the rest of them, but he's even worse. And he's definitely a made man. There's something there that, he has more prominence than the other TDs for some reason. I don't know. Mm-hmm. There's nothing particularly special about him, but they are giving him, the kind of the gavels to kind of run these initiatives that are pretty high profile. So he'll probably, he'll be PM and it'll be great, and he'll have all the entourage in the house, and he'll be a happy guy, and he'll lose, and but he'll be back. He'll be probably a president of the EU next or some crap, in my opinion.
They were already lauding their new leader, but had to wait for the official result. 37-year-old Simon Harris, turning a page in Ireland's history, the youngest ever Taoiseach Prime Minister-elect.
I hereby declare Minister Simon Harris TD elected as the new leader of Fine Gael.
It's the absolute honour of my life to formally be here with you today in Athlone to accept the leadership of this great party
He spoke of the need for hope and security and won rapturous applause for condemning the use of the Irish flag on the coffin of an IRA man last week.
We stand for streets that are safe and crime that is never allowed to go unchecked. And in a week where I saw the tricolour of this republic draped over the coffin of a Garda killer, I say shame. Let's take our flag back. Take it back. Take our flag back. Take it back.
I don't think Leo Varadkar, I think he probably is done now. I think they exploited the gay thing as much as they're going to do these days. I don't think he has any useful work left in him. But this guy's so young, and he has a lot of connections that I would say, a lot of connections. Like Leo's an immigrant, but this guy is, a long-term, father was connected, these sort of guys. So they're bringing in one of their ringers to kind of hold the fort until they figure out what's next, in my opinion. But another piece of crap, and it just goes along with the Irish. But who else are they going to put in? Even Sinn Féin, which is probably the most conservative, are the worst as well. So the whole place will just be it's just a soap opera now, in my opinion.
Gotcha. Yeah. Cause he seems horrible, and he also seems inept too, a little bit like what we've got here in the States with Joe Biden at the helm. He's not just evil and stupid, but he's completely way in over his head and doesn't know what he's doing, and everything he does is wrong. So it seems like that's what they're setting up over there. And like you said, probably a face for, Fine Gael when they lose, because they're probably going to lose, right? I mean, I don't think after this referendum, that was just such a huge vote of no confidence that it's kind of the wind is at their back for the opposition against those guys to, if not, get a new party in, but at least get those people out. And it seemed like they were all resigning left and right, like last week or the week before. So, again, like you said, he's kind of an interim PM here, or an interim Taoiseach. And, right now, I don't think he necessarily has that locked in place, but it's still not going to help him when the general election comes along, because that's they're probably going to sweep all those guys out of power.
Yeah, but that's kind of the parliamentary system, that's where it's flawed, because he'll probably still be in, because they'll need, let's say Fianna Fáil, which is the competing party, which again, it's a uniparty. I mean, it's like Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden. They're the same person, they're a uniparty. So even if Fianna Fáil comes back, or they'll say, oh, well, we need still 20 more or 10 more TDs to kind of form a government, and they'll bring Fine Gael back in, and this guy will have a prominent post as some kind of minister of, agriculture or something high profile. So like Leo might be gone. Simon Coveney, who's kind of the heir apparent guy, who's, long-term Fine Gael, his dad was vice president or president or whatever. They're hiding him. They're keeping him in reserve. I don't think they want to tarnish him. He's probably the next PM in 10, 15 years. Okay. If he can manage to stay in office, because he barely won, but he's kind of the guy that was negotiating Brexit. So I was shocking that they didn't put him up, but it makes a lot of sense, because he's such a clean looking guy that they'd probably want to when they resurrect the Fine Gael party in 10 years, he'll be the face of it, a little bit older, if he can manage to stay in office. But I mean, you don't get as much as more connected and corrupt as Simon Coveney, in that government. But Mr. Harris is pretty freaking close. And so I would say it's just a holding pattern, but it's a uniparty. So their boys will be in the other party, and then they'll join. So Ireland, the whole thing's just a joke. I mean, I think what's really kind of getting great is how France is acting, ripping up the European flags, having protests, because now Ukraine, they're trying to suck Europe into the war. Yeah. And that's where the metal's going to meet the road, the rubber's going to meet the road. And that's where France, for all the French, the Americans say about the French, about, the frogs and, I think in this generation, they're going to be the ones that are actually fighting in the Europeans to kind of keep, and maybe the Italians, hopefully too. And we see actually the Holland people too, but they won't let the Holland guy form a government. See, that's the whole thing about the flawedness of the parliamentary system, is you could just be in limbo, and it seems like a lot of them are. So it's really good soap opera. We'll have a lot to discuss, especially since 2024 is going to be the biggest election season in the history of the world. Never in the history of the world has so many elections happened. And I would say it's going to flow away from the communist side. And that's when it gets dangerous because they don't let people win. They don't mind, like, we'll all lose, but they're never going to let you win, So for warning for Donald Trump, get that Secret Service doubled up because something crazy is going to happen across the board.
Well, whenever there's not like a communist in charge, they figure it's it's a right-wing extremist is what they say. And they feel like the communism is like, oh, well, they're the socialists, whatever, that's the same thing. But that's really kind of the way it should be. That's normal, and then when they move away from that, then it's like, oh, everything is dangerous now and we really don't know what this is going to look like and it's unstable and it's extremist and all of this kind of crap because people are trying to get things back to normal, or at least some semblance of not being crazy the way it has been for years. So they don't feel like the Ukraine war is much of a problem. And like you say, the French, Macron, he wants to get in with boots on the ground. And I don't think that's going to be pretty good because that's going to be the first real Westerner that's in there making it happen directly. And then Putin will be like, oh, okay, now we're at war. Let's go. It doesn't matter. I can go directly after France. So it's just, it heats things up. It doesn't cool things down and come to a resolution. And it seems to be that's what they're hell bent on doing. It's really crazy. I don't want to necessarily get into too much politics, but like when we were growing up, and you study World War I and World War II, you'd be like, why the hell did this happen? But we're living through it right now. It's like, why the hell are you idiots doing what you're doing? And then it's too late. And then somebody goes off and there's a big explosion. It's just like, now we got to fight. And that's, I think, what they're pushing for. And it's just crazy, but they don't care. So
it's 100%. It's a setup. It's always a setup. If you look at World War I, what Franz Duke Ferdinand, or World War II, it's always a setup. And it's you got to see who's gaining at the end of it because the war is not a war. It's a way to kind of take over. And you'll see that France coming in and the French guy who's under a lot of pressure because everybody's finding out that his wife, who's 24 years older than him, is actually a man. All these gay guys coming out all over the place. Trudeau's losing cover. They're all losing, but this guy, like, again, it's getting pretty bad for him. Just the woman can't show any pictures before she was 30. And we all know he's like anybody who marries a 24-year-old woman is a little older than you. Is a little weird. That's a little strange, unless it's like, I don't know, even if it was Cindy Crawford or something, I wouldn't be touching that. You're just too old, but this girl, it's all funky grooming, it's all coming out. And again, going back to the show, Diddy Combs. As they say, 2024 is the day this year all truths come out to some degree, and that could be very possible.
Yeah, well, the truth is always going to come out. It's just a matter of when. And now, if it's all spilling out, if they've got something that can be as big of a distraction as a world war, let's go for it. That's something to really shuffle the decks and keep people in power and keep people looking at that rather than, Sean Puff Daddy's homes being raided or finding out that J-Lo was, helping him smuggle guns around and stuff. It's just crazy, this stuff that they're saying. But, we could say, oh, that's crazy. That can't be real. But we've already lived through Jeffrey Epstein and we know, sure, it's real. It can happen. And it has happened.
There's guys like that in Ireland. There's one everywhere. All these type of guys, the Jeffrey Epstein, where'd you get your money? How do you have your support? How do you have your political connections? Where you didn't graduate college and now you have private jets, $1 billion, like the same modus operandi, except when he dies, the money just disappears. Right. And it's just like, and you'll find that Puff Daddy will be suicided soon enough because the real players who've been playing him like a fiddle will, close shop on him. And they just have to, but that's just a distraction. They'll do the same with whoever stands in their way, whether it's Macron, you better do this, or else, or Joe Biden, you better make, start rolling into Ukraine. And once a war comes, the elections could be, who knows, Joe Biden will do like, oh, we have to suspend the elections because of the war. It's like, you created the war. Oh, well, this one, and that's what I'm kind of anticipating is some type of black swan event, that like COVID. We lived through the COVID. They're going to pull another one, and it's going to be war this time. And it's just like, you're all instigating it yourself. No one can, like, we know, we've seen enough of Putin now. You know, Europe enticed them into this war to protect themselves. They only wanted their Russian-speaking locations. And every time you bring it up, the press and everybody go crazy, which is a red sign now that, like, you know, anytime the press go crazy, you have to think the exact opposite.
Well, here in the States, you look at the Democrats and whatever they're saying, like, oh, Trump is going to do this, Trump is going to do that. That's just telling you what they're going to do. That's all that is. It's just pure projection. They're showing their hand, and they say, oh, Trump is going to come after his political enemies. And well, that's what you guys have been doing now for 5 years or 4 years, is going after your political enemies, and they're in jail, and you're still picking people up. And you've got, I don't know if you saw this, you've got FBI knocking on people's doors now for, you know, things that they put on social media that they didn't like. It's just like, what are you talking about? What is going on here? So all of those new FBI agents that they hired, those people are now knocking on doors like, we didn't like what you put on your Facebook account. Can you come and talk to us about that? It's crazy, but it's real. It's happening. And like you say, it's only end of March, early April, and there's still, you know, 5-6 months left to go, at least of this election cycle here in the U.S.
Yeah, and it's the Gestapo. I mean, that's exactly what they're doing. It's just like, hey, I got freedom of speech, go F off. It's like, no, we'll just take you in without your lawyer. It's just like, you know, it's very much the Gestapo. And that's why it's like, again, going back to the Puff Diddy, it's like, well, did they actually raid his house to go after him, or did they raid his house to get the stuff so they can't implicate other people? You know, and that's kind of the theory going around, because you can't trust the feds these days. They're breaking down people's doors to hide the information, like they did with the Epstein Island tapes. It's like, where's the tapes? Oh no, or the JFK assassination. It's all covering up their crap. And enough is enough. But I mean, again, are they going to let Trump win and let the Republicans get momentum? Because now there's a taste for blood. And it's just like, we got to do to you what you're doing to us, hypothetically, tit for tat. And it's just like, you can't sustain this incrementalism to the left. You're coming around now where you're like, you know, boys can't be girls. You've gone completely satanic now, where it's just like the deplorables are the proper people that go to church, and the great people are the people like Puff Diddy that's having sex trafficking with minors and giving them drugs and taking over their enterprises and stealing their stuff. And, you know, I heard kind of just one comment about like his ex-bodyguard just saying, he's just like, you don't know what he's like. He's a taker. You know, he takes everything. He takes everything from anybody he wants, and then he screws you. And it's just like, man, I know those people. They just take and take and take, and then they got the political cover to cover their ass, you know, if they do anything illegal. And but the shit might be hitting the fan. Like, their days are always up. And what we know about the devils is eventually they come around to their own. You know, Stalin used to kill all his people every kind of 2 years.
Sure did.
You know?
Yep.
So you get a good couple of years, and then you're fried. And it should happen with everybody. So stay clean, and they can't touch. Well, they'll try to touch you anyway.
Yeah, they will. They will anyways.
Man, yeah, I mean, I would love to see Ray. Like, again, once Trump gets in, I mean, I would put Milley immediately, bring the DOJ on his ass for calling China like the day you know about getting elected, and he's not going to do anything if Trump gives orders. It's like, yeah, you're going to jail. You know, go after Ray, go after all these guys, and just see what comes out. Because again, it's just like, where there's smoke, there's fire. But we'll see what happens. This is probably going to get me in the bad books or whatever, but fuck it. I think we're all done with that now.
Well, I mean, it's like everything else, you know, you nailed it with regards to, you know, Puff P. Diddy. I mean, he's been doing this for 30 years now. I mean, he's been around since the 90s. So it's not just like it was the last couple of years. And you can see that this is really going to continue on. And you're absolutely right. That's exactly what they did with Epstein. They didn't go in to expose things. They went in to hide it, because you ask about the flight logs to this day, it's like, oh, well, that's an ongoing investigation. So that's how they hide these things. It's like, oh, let's get an investigation going, and that shuts down anything being leaked out. But with
and that's my thoughts exactly. I would, because he has like 4 criminal civil cases going, which discovery is like ready to go, or it should be going, and then they bring an investigation to lock that down.
There you go.
You know,
that's the Jeffrey Epstein playbook. That's exactly what they did with Jeffrey Epstein. That's the exact playbook, because there were some things that were coming out, and there were some folks, and I think it was like the Miami Herald was starting to find out stuff, and that's when they raided. And it's like, oh no, this is all locked down now. We can't release any of this stuff.
100%. And like, if you see it, like you talked to, remember that a politician who was in a wheelchair, the young guy called Cofford, or remember him? He was and he was talking about the sex parties in Washington. So it's ample everywhere, where it's like it's a sex party, but actually it's all recorded to get you. I mean, it's eyes wide shut. It's pretty crazy that this actually happens, I mean, but I mean, at least
Stanley
it's not,
Kubrick died before Eyes Wide Shut was released, so. Not saying that he was targeted, but that's the fact. He did not survive to see that movie released.
Correct. Exactly. And I mean, they're telling stories, but I mean, come on, these are happening. I mean,
sure.
They say, well, it's great to be rich, but money is just to buy you sex. I mean, sex is the final frontier. Like that's the pleasure that, money buys you, or the access. It's like, if you ever read like, there's always information on the devil, and the devil has 4 generals, and it's all to do with sex, depravity and stuff like that, because that's what it all comes down to at the end of the day. Well,
but the sex is easy. That's why you always hear like, oh, it's just sex. Well, sex is like kind of a gateway drug almost. It's the easiest one for people to fall into, but then there's way worse stuff, and they get into it, and you're victimizing people, and it's power, and you're able to have control over people's lives and life and death. And that's, hey, they're the masters of the universe, right? They're the ones who are flying in the private jets into, places like Switzerland and the Bahamas and every place else. So they have a totally different life than kind of the little people and all the, the characters that aren't real, that don't do anything. They're the only ones that have power in this world, according to them. So that's what they want, and that's what they crave. And, it's not forever.
No, it's not. And unfortunately, that comes with the price, your soul. Enjoy the jets while you can, because life is short, and eternity's eternity, if you believe in that sort of thing. But these guys, it's pretty crazy. And it seems like it's so ample. Like, that's why I always see now a rich guy to some degree, because you can't really get rich in this day and age like you could, the baby boomers could. But now it's like, if you're rich, there's something that you've done to someone else, or you're part of a group, or you're involved. Like Simon Harris, for example, becoming PM. They didn't pick him because they like him. They picked him because he is somehow connected to the powers that be that run, Ireland and the world. And this guy's no different. And I would say where there's smoke, there's fire. And P. Diddy is sacrificable, as is a lot of, these guys that are loud. And, you can't stop people from talking. All you have to do is eliminate the guys that, can cause the most damage. And he'll end up dead pretty quick. Yeah. I would say they'll suicide him, or he'll suicide, and he suicides everybody else. So it's like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. But I'm assuming this is going to happen. This is happening all over the place, because we've seen it definitely in Ireland. And it's always homosexual now. It's not even like proper good stuff like Stanley Cooper, like, hot women and models. It starts that way, but it ends up, it's like men. It's kind of creepy. It's weird.
But that's power. You're having power over, over men. And if that's your thing and you want to be a rap star, maybe you need to, get together with P. Diddy first. I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think that's it, mate.
That's power. If you want to do something, there's a price to be paid first, and you pay that price. And sorry, if you're not willing to pay it, there's 20 other people in line right behind you to be called little whatever, and that they'll give you a moniker and give you a record deal. And we know that the record companies are probably about the worst out there, but it's interesting to see this all come, but at the end of the day, it's not that much of a surprise anymore. And as we're seeing things come, again, back to hard border, a lot of that stuff that is in there, but it's almost like if you read anything from the Babylon Bee, it's like it's hard for them to stay ahead of things because it's like stuff that you thought like, whoa, that's people will be shocked by that. Now it's happening. Everyone can see it. So we need to stay ahead of it as much as everybody else. But it's crazy. But it is coming out. So don't be surprised anymore, everyone.
No, it is coming down. So like your heroes, or if that is your thing, your heroes, whether it be an entertainer or a basketball player, you just don't know what goes on behind closed doors. I mean, they might be good at an athlete or whatever, but they're crazy, and their parties and what else do they have to do? Again, they live such a simple life, but it's these actors, they're really compromised because I was watching some and they're just like, they're all compromised in one way, shape, or form, whether it's Leonardo DiCaprio and he's compromised by a whole bunch of different people, including his best friend, Tobey Maguire, who kind of they're like, man, that guy has a lot of stuff on him. And that's why Tobey Maguire, who should have been out of acting a long time ago, gets the odd occasional role in one of his movies just to keep him going, because it's like, they're all kind of pull out their videos, when you live in that world. And, so it's a very interesting time, and it's good to see everybody's kind of the it's coming off, because P. Diddy, going back to him, I mean, he was just the next in line. It was a guy named what was that guy, Quincy Jones, who was doing it before him, that everybody will talk about.
That's what they're saying.
And it's just like he was super celebrated, and soon you'll find Oprah's in there, and it's going to be a very good time. And I'm glad the celebrities are taking the hit, because they've been living the good life, preaching that we're all deplorables, going for the Hillary Clintons, when they're just getting paid off, and enough is enough. I mean, we're deplorables, but yet Bill's on Jeffrey Epstein's plane 30 times. It's really just projectionism, and I've just had enough of it.
Yeah. All right, Jay. Well, thanks so much. I think we wanted to get to Roadhouse today, but we'll come back to it next time and talk about Colin's debut here as an actor, and try to keep it light. But this one, we had some political stuff, and there's just so much going on. We wanted to comment on it. So appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time this evening. And for folks listening out there, really appreciate you hopping on. And again, check out Hard Border, and also check out our presence on X, Green Island Pods there. So follow us on both. All right, Jay, thanks so much. Talk to you soon.